Look, let's address the elephant in the room right now. She has options, plenty of them. The moment she walks into any space, a bar, a coffee shop, a gym, there are eyes on her, men calculating their approach, DMs sliding into her phone while you're sitting across from her at dinner, orbiters in her inbox telling her she's beautiful, asking if she's free this weekend, wondering if maybe this time she'll finally notice them. That's reality. That's the modern dating landscape. And most men crumble under the weight of that knowledge. But here's what separates you from the rest of them. So what? The weak man hears she has options and feels his stomach drop. He starts performing harder, texting faster, proving more. He becomes a circus act, trying to outshine shadows he's never even met. The man who understands his own gravity, he shrugs. He takes a sip of his drink. He carries on with his evening, because women's other options are only a threat to men who haven't yet discovered what they're actually worth. Let me say that again so it lands properly. Her other options only have power if you give them power. The man who worries about the next guy is really just announcing, out loud and through every anxious behavior, that he doesn't believe he's the best option in the room. And if he doesn't believe it, why should she? Here's the truth most men never learn. You don't beat her other options by being better than them. You beat them by not acknowledging they exist. Not from denial, not from delusion, but from a place so grounded in your own value that competition becomes an irrelevant concept. No one can compete with a man who refuses to compete. He doesn't enter the race. He builds his own track, and somehow, mysteriously, magnetically, she finds herself wanting to run toward him instead of watching the other men scramble for position. Let me tell you exactly what she's actually looking for, and why most men get it completely backwards. Hypergamy. You've probably heard the word thrown around in these circles. Most men misunderstand it entirely. They think it means women want the richest guy, the tallest guy, the guy with the flashiest car or the biggest biceps, and while those things might catch initial attention, they don't hold it. Hypergamy at its core is not about dating up in status, it's about dating up in feeling. A woman is biologically wired to seek the highest value male she can secure, but value isn't a bank statement, it's not a resume, it's not even confidence in isolation. It's total energetic authority. It's the way a man holds space. It's whether he flinches when pressure arrives or stands unmoved like he expected it. She's not logically evaluating you against her other options like she's reviewing job applications. She's feeling for something much more primal. She's sensing which man has emotional gravity, that invisible pull that makes her want to orbit closer. And emotional gravity cannot be faked. It cannot be performed. It either radiates from your center or it doesn't. The man who gives her butterflies by doing absolutely nothing, that's the man who understands this. He doesn't try to impress because he's already impressed with himself. Not in an arrogant way, in a settled way, in a way that says, I know who I am, and I'm not adjusting that for anyone. That energy alone disqualifies 90% of her other options instantly, because those other men are trying, they're efforting, they're proving, and proof is the language of doubt. When you move like you've already been chosen by yourself, she stops weighing her options and starts wondering if she measures up to yours. Here's the paradox that changes everything once you truly understand it. The more available you become, the less valuable you appear. The more you chase, the faster she retreats. The more you explain yourself, the less she believes you. The more you try to convince her, the more convinced she becomes that you're not worth having. It's backwards. It makes no logical sense, and that's because attraction doesn't operate in logic, it operates in feeling. And feelings are shaped by contrast, by tension, by the space between reaching for something and actually having it. This is why the man who seems slightly out of reach becomes the man she can't stop thinking about. Not unavailable, not cold, not playing stupid games where he waits 3 days to text back, but genuinely centered in something larger than her. Genuinely occupied with a life that doesn't pause because she's in it. Genuinely unaffected by whether she chooses him because he's already chosen himself. That detachment, real detachment, not the fake aloofness that insecure men perform, is the most attractive quality a man can possess because it signals something she cannot resist. Abundance. When you're not worried about losing her, it means you know you could find another her. When you're not threatened by her other options, it means you have options too, or at least you carry the energy of a man who does. And women are magnetically drawn to that energy because it triggers something ancient in her brain. She wants the man other women want. She wants the man who doesn't need her. She wants the man who could walk away without looking back, because only he is powerful enough to actually stay. That's the paradox. The man who could leave is the man she begs to remain. Now let's talk about why she tests you and what she's really hoping to find. Every time she mentions another guy in conversation, every time she takes longer to text back, every time she flirts just a little too much with the bartender or brings up an ex casually, she's watching. Not consciously, not maliciously, but instinctively. She's testing the foundation you stand on. She's checking if the ground shakes beneath your feet or if you remain exactly where you were, unfazed, unmoved, maybe even slightly amused. Because here's what she knows, whether she'd admit it or not, any man can seem confident when nothing's threatening him. The real question is what happens when pressure arrives. Can you hold your center when she pulls away? Can you stay grounded when she mentions that guy from work who's just a friend? Can you remain still when she goes quiet for a day? Or do you spiral into needy, double texts, and anxious, what did I do wrong energy? Most men fail these tests immediately. They fail because they interpret the test as a threat instead of recognizing it for what it is, an invitation to prove depth. She doesn't want you to react. She doesn't want you to explain, defend, compete, or spiral. She wants you to do nothing. She wants your internal peace to be so unshakable that her chaos bounces off your stillness like waves hitting a cliff. When you observe without reacting, when you notice without moving, when you let her feel the weight of your calm instead of the heat of your panic, that's when everything shifts. You stop being one of her options. You become the standard against which every other option fails. She's not looking for a man who fights for her. She's looking for a man who's so solid that she fights to stay close to him. And the only way to become that man is to stop fearing the test and start welcoming it as confirmation that you've already passed. Anchors don't move for waves. That's why ships trust them in storms. Let me show you exactly what weak men do and why it destroys attraction instantly. The weak man sees her talking to someone else at a party and feels his chest tighten. He spends the next 20 minutes positioning himself to interrupt, to remind her he's there, to reclaim territory he thinks he's losing. The weak man checks who liked her last photo. He monitors her online status. He notices when she's active but hasn't responded to his message, and he constructs elaborate theories about what that means. The weak man asks questions that reveal everything. Who was that guy? Why did he comment on your picture? You seem distant. Is everything okay? Every question is a confession. Every probe is a broadcast of insecurity, and she hears it louder than any words he actually speaks. You know what she hears when he asks who she was texting? She hears, "I don't believe I'm your best option. I need you to reassure me that I am. Please tell me I'm not losing you because my entire sense of worth is tied to whether you choose me tonight." That's the translation, and nothing drives attraction faster than a man who needs her to feel whole. The strong man operates differently. He notices the same things. He's not blind, he's not oblivious, but his response is radically different. He notices and does nothing. He sees her talking to another guy and continues his conversation without missing a beat. He feels the flicker of something, maybe jealousy, maybe curiosity, and he lets it pass through him like weather. He doesn't suppress it. He doesn't pretend it's not there. He simply doesn't let it move him. That stillness is what separates boys from men in her eyes. That ability to feel something without being controlled by it. That power to observe the game without entering it. Because the moment you enter the competition, you've already told her you're afraid of losing, and the man who's afraid of losing has already lost. What she's secretly starving for is something almost no man can give her. She can find attention anywhere. Her phone buzzes all day with men offering compliments, dates, affection. She can find excitement. There's always someone willing to entertain her, impress her, take her somewhere new. She can find validation. That's the easiest commodity in the modern world. But what she cannot find, what is devastatingly rare, is peace, masculine peace. The stillness of a man who is not reactive. The calm of someone whose center doesn't shift based on her mood. The groundedness of a person who has stopped seeking and started simply being. When a woman finds that peace in a man, something ancient in her relaxes. She stops performing. She stops testing as much, not because she trusts him yet, but because she senses there's nothing to test. His foundation isn't up for evaluation, it just is. This is what hypergamy is actually selecting for, not the tallest or the richest, but the most stable, the most internally secure, the man whose emotional state doesn't require her management, because every woman knows, even if she's never articulated it, the man who needs her for peace will eventually drain her of hers, but the man who brings his own peace becomes the place she wants to rest. So when she weighs her options, and she's always weighing options, that's her nature, that's hypergamy in action. She's not just looking at surface attributes, she's sensing beneath them. She's asking, unconsciously, which man feels like solid ground? The man who worries about her other options has already revealed his ground isn't solid. His foundation trembles at the mention of competition, and if it trembles now, she knows it will crumble later. But you, if you can show her that nothing about her other options moves your needle, that their existence is as relevant to you as the weather in a city you'll never visit, you become something else entirely. You become the only option worth taking. Here's what happens when you finally stop competing and start commanding. The shift is subtle but total. You stop playing defense and start playing your own game entirely. You stop reacting to her and start leading yourself. Her behavior becomes interesting information instead of emotional emergency. When she mentions another guy, you hear it the way you'd hear someone comment on the weather. Noted, irrelevant, moving on. When she takes hours to respond, you don't notice because you're occupied with things that matter more than your phone. Not as strategy, not as a game, because your life is genuinely full. When she pulls away to test your reaction, she finds no reaction to test. Just the same man she was attracted to from the beginning, unchanged, unbothered, exactly where he was. That consistency is irresistible, not because it's playing hard to get, because it signals something she's biologically wired to chase. A man who doesn't need her validation to feel valid. At that point, something inverts. She stops comparing you to other options and starts comparing every other option to you, and none of them measure up. Not because you did anything to outshine them, but because they're all trying and you simply exist. You're not auditioning for her approval. You're offering your presence like fire offers warmth, naturally, without effort, and only felt by those who step close enough. This is the prize mentality, not arrogance, not delusion. The quiet knowing that you are not here to be chosen. You're here to do the choosing. And when she feels that energy, her entire strategy shifts. Suddenly, she's the one wondering if she's good enough. She's the one adjusting her behavior to keep your attention. She's the one worried about your options, because for the first time, she's met a man who carries the gravity of someone with options, whether they exist or not. That's the power you access when you stop worrying about her other men and start occupying your throne. Let me leave you with this. Her other options are not your business. They never were. Your business is you. Your purpose, your growth, your internal kingdom, the life you're building whether or not she's in it. When you lock into that mission, when you make yourself the point of your own existence instead of waiting for her validation to make you feel real, the noise fades. Her DMs don't matter, her orbiters don't matter. The guy at the gym who makes her laugh doesn't matter, because you've discovered something that most men never will. Your value isn't determined by her choice, it's determined by yours. When you choose yourself fully, your standards, your peace, your direction, you become immune to the anxiety of competition. Not because you've convinced yourself her other options don't exist, but because you genuinely do not care anymore. Your worth was never on the table for her to decide. You took it off the market the moment you realized you were the only buyer who mattered. And ironically, that's when she becomes desperate to buy in. The man who doesn't need her, but would welcome her if she earns her place. The man who observes her tests with amusement instead of dread. The man who could watch her walk away and still sleep peacefully that night because his peace was never hers to take. That man is rare. That man is magnetic. that man is exactly what her hypergamy has been searching for, even when she didn't have words for it. Her other options may have looks, they may have money, they may have charm. But they don't have what you have, a center that doesn't move, and a woman who's tasted the chaos of unstable men will cross oceans to find the one who stays still. So stop looking at the competition, stop monitoring her attention, stop measuring yourself against phantoms you've never met and probably never will. Your only job is to become so grounded, so purposeful, so locked into your own path that whether she follows becomes secondary to whether you're moving forward. That's how you win. Not by chasing her, not by outperforming her options, but by becoming so complete within yourself that her choice to stay feels like her privilege, not yours. And if she can't see that, you let her go. Without bitterness, without explanation, without a second glance, because the man who is willing to walk away is the only man worth walking toward, and the man who never worried about her options in the first place is the only man she'll spend her life trying to keep. That's not arrogance, that's just what happens when you finally become the option.